But with that said, I've seen plenty of dudes like I'm gonna call them out. Well, not gonna call them out by name, but there have been plenty of dudes that could not take criticism, and they take that criticism or that feedback, and it crushes them for like they think about it for weeks, kind of thing. And you're like, dude, I've already forgotten about that conversation. like I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on where you are in your career, right? Like, because I remember, when I was younger, if I'd make a mistake, and it wasn't even the criticism, right? Like, it's like the team has to pay for it, or like everybody's out on the drop zone looking for your lost equipment. And it happens to everybody. Like, like at some point you're gonna inconvenience a whole group of people, and it's almost worse when like they're like, man, everybody has their day. You're like, man, could you just be upset with me, please? Could you tell me I'm a POS like right now? And they're like, nah, like, I mean, if it happens over and over again, like we're gonna be real upset with you. Yeah. But like, yeah, like one thing, like you can't control everything, so like we're gonna spend our night out here doing this instead of go sleeping in our beds. It's just like, so like, yeah, like certain things like that, especially when I was younger, which I think there is some goodness in it. Like you really bake that experience into your brain, and like the good and the bad, and you think about it a lot. But as you get older, it's just like, okay, learn, move forward, let's go. Like, yeah, that was embarrassing, that sucked, but I'll deal with that some other time after I learn the lessons I'm supposed to be learning from this.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why people don't want to take risks, though, is because so going back to they don't like to take feedback, or they don't want to seem like they're the burden on team. So they're like, well, I'm not going to take the risk to make this decision because what if it's wrong? What if team sergeant or the commander or like comes and chews my ass? Well, like, look, man, it ain't that big of a deal.
You know what? You can be the burden on your team today, or you can be the burden on your team for the rest of your career. Like that's like failure is necessary for growth. Like making mistakes is necessary. If you're not making mistakes, then you're not trying. And not trying is not really what we should be doing. Like we're supposed to be getting after the mission. So you need to move forward. And sometimes that's going to be uncomfortable. And sometimes you're going to fall on your face. But like, if you just play it safe your entire career, what did you really do?
Yeah. I remember showing up to England, and this is going to be random. People are going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? You probably even. But I remember showing up to England, and one of my NCOs' desks, he had a little thing taped on his thing, and it said, what would you rather do? Arrive at the pearly gates all with this pristine body with no stories to tell, or would you rather skid into the pearly gates on a motorcycle, get off and disheveled hair, broken bones, and go, woo, what a ride,
Yep.
Like that's kind of where I'm at, but that always stuck with me. And that's over 20 years now that whole kind of idea has stuck with me. Is man, yeah, I could play it safe. Sure. And maybe things will work out, and that's fine. If I play it safe, yeah, the long marathon consistency probably will work out, but that's just not me. I can't do that. I need excitement. Maybe that's not great, but like I need consistency in some things, right? I don't need an emotional roller coaster in a relationship, or I don't need a volatile economy, right? I don't need that.
Right.
But man, if I just played it safe every time, like I wouldn't be the person on here talking to you.
No, for sure. And I think I harp on this kind of stuff a lot, and I'm going to try to explain. I have when you get a thought in your head and you're like, man, I'm going to fumble my way through this explanation if I try to like say this out loud.
Live my life like that.
But like when you become an NCO and your responsibility increases, like you need to learn how to be honest with yourself, and to really understand what you're afraid of and what you're trying to accomplish. Because I think a lot of this is, if you're afraid of criticism, or you're afraid of people seeing you in a certain way, like if you're living in fear, you need to find a way to increase your own capability. And that's gonna release a lot of that fear from you, right? Like, cause like, instead of having this imposter syndrome, or instead of trying to pretend to be someone all the time, just be that person. And I think that's what a lot of that fear comes from, is like, you're not that person, or, you didn't work out this morning. So like when you're telling your folks they need to PT more, in the back of your brain, it's like, but could I really do that? Like, or, you're asking your folks to do stuff that you've never done, or you couldn't do. And, that's going to eat at you. And that drives fear within you. So like that fear of getting into trouble or learning or growing, I think a lot of that has to do with, people being, uncomfortable with their own capability, their own level of excellence or whatever. And either you got to come to terms with that and move forward. But like just being honest with everybody, I think is going to go a long way. Like you don't have to know everything. You're not the smartest person in the room all the time. You don't have all the answers, but what are your intentions? Are your intentions to make things better? Are your intentions, like, are you willing to listen to the folks below you because they might have better ideas than you? Is your ego so fragile that you can't listen to them and like take their good ideas and make everything better, and go to the commander, and when they're like, that's a great idea, be like, no, this is Airman so-and-so's idea. Like, don't, that's not me. Like, and risk not getting the best EPR of all time, or whatever they're called now, because it wasn't your idea. Like, those are all the things that like kind of roll into, when all that stuff goes wrong, that's when you get a scared person in this responsibility position that leads to poor outcomes or no outcomes.
And no outcomes being the worst.
Yeah. It's just like, I mean, what are we doing?
Yeah, exactly. No, I got nothing to add to that, really.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was so passionate about that.
It well.
It took me like 5 minutes to like spit it out.
Yeah, it was good though. Like I said, I got nothing to add to it, so I'm at a loss. But what's that?
I mean, there's the NCO core, right, that we're talking about, and then there's all the stuff surrounding it, which has an impact. Like your environment will dictate a lot of things about who you are and what you do. And so, like, if you're talking about the NCO core, you got to talk about senior NCOs, and you got to talk about airmen, you got to talk about officers, like, because this is a giant, it's all the same environment, and they all affect each other. And so, like, as an airman, when my NCO is pushing the boundaries, like, what should I do? As a senior NCO, what should I do? And as that officer that sees this crazy person trying to do these crazy things, like, what do I do, in these situations?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the E4 Mafia, or the Airman Mafia, the ARM, the Airmen's Resistance Movement, they are, they're, a lot of times they're young, not always, because, we've got quite a few older folks coming in now. Older, right? I mean, they're like 24, 30, so they have a lot of life experience already. They've already made a lot of those young person kind of mistakes, and have matured a lot. So but on the other end of that, you also have folks like me coming in super young and still make mistakes because we don't have fully formed, frontal lobes making good decisions. Right.
Right.
And in an age where everything is recorded, everybody wants to pick up their phone and start recording things.
Yep.